We are going to use the Nifty Knitter straight loom that has 26 pegs to make a bag. So to do this bag, what we're going to do is we're going to add the strap later instead of adding it at the beginning. We're going to cast on first, and we're just going to do the simple E-wrap cast on. You can choose a different cast on if you want. So we're going to go ahead and just do the regular E-wrap cast on. Okay, once you get back to the start, go ahead and knit that first peg over. Put a loop over the top to lock it in place. Now you can kind of work your way back around to the front. So go ahead and finish going around until you get this E-wrap cast on row completed. We're just finishing up the last few pegs on our E-wrap cast on. And now push all your pegs, all your loops down if you haven't already, to make way for the next stitch that you want to do. Now, the next stitch we're going to use for this bag is the figure 8 stitch. Again, we're going to go where our working yarn is coming out. Just kind of work around that corner. So again, you wrap it, and we're going to work around the figure 8 stitch for these pegs. And it may look a little weird from the ones that connected there, but that's okay. Continue doing the figure 8 stitch. Remember, we're working behind, wrapping round, then knit over. Again, we're looking at it this way. We're going to skip a peg, go around, knit over. So go ahead and continue this stitch for the bag for another 2 rows after you complete this one. Once you finish the 3 rows all total of the figure 8 stitch, you'll kind of see it look kind of cute in the inside. It's not going to pop out through yet, as you can tell. It needs a little more work, but the next stitch we're going to actually do, is the chunky stitch. Now if you remember, this stitch is one where we wrap all the pegs, so that there's 4 loops on them, and then we take the bottom 3 over the top 1. So we're going to end up doing 2 rows of the chunky stitch right after this one. And if you remember, like I said, we're going to end up wrapping each peg, so there's 4 loops. And it's going to be tricky because these pegs on this loom are kind of short, so when we get to the fact that all the pegs will be wrapped with the 3 loops, and we're getting ready to work our last loop, we're going to end up wanting to do them almost individually as we knit over. It'll make it a little easier than trying to put all 4 loops on there. Getting to the 3rd time of wrapping. Again, you're going to push them down a little bit, keeping your yarn as you're wrapping kind of loose a little bit to help you when it's time to knit over. Oops, just lost all my yarn. So if you look, now the first peg, this one has 1, 2, 3. This one, excuse me, has 2. So we need to go back around this side one more time so we get back to our start. Alright, when we get back to our start, you see that there's 3 loops on here. Go ahead, push them down a little bit to give you room. Wrap it the 4th time. And then take all those bottom loops up over the top. And move on to the next peg again. This is what, because of the pegs being short, this chunky stitch is easier to work one peg at a time when you're getting onto the 4th row of wrap. So go ahead and finish up this row, and then go and do one more of the same process, and then we'll come back to do the next part. It is starting to come through the bottom and looking really cute. Now what I want you to do is to do 5 rows of purl. And if you remember what the purling is all you're going to do is take your working yarn underneath the loop that's on the next peg that you're going to do, and you're just going to do the purl stitch. So you create that loop, take it off, and put it back on the peg. And repeat this process for 5 rows. After the 5 rows of purl, you can kind of see that we start getting the bag out through the bottom of the loom. This is a small bag, so this design is definitely for like a child, or you can easily modify it to a bigger loom. Similar, if you have any other of the Nifty Knitter looms, you can modify it up to a bigger bag, but I wanted to do a small bag for this video. But as you can see, we got our figure 8, we've got our chunky stitch, and then we've got our purl coming through. So for the next 10 rows, excuse me, we are actually going to do what I like to call the tight stitch. If you remember what that one is where we end up wrapping the pegs so that there's 3 loops on them, and we take the bottom loop over the top 2. And again, this is a stitch similar to the chunky stitch that is easier to work one peg at a time once you have the amount of loops on there that you need. So as we come around here, again, a tight stitch, we've got our 3 loops on here, 1, 2, 3, and we're just simply going to take the bottom loop here. I'll show you here. The bottom loop, that's my camera focuses, over the top. And I have this little mark here to remind me where the starting peg of the loom is, where I consider my starting peg. Like I said, it's usually easier to do them one at a time so that you can actually control how tight you wrap it. But again, the tight stitch, what I do is just 1 loop over 2 loops. So, I mean, you can do more than 1 peg at a time. You could wrap a few, but I would just say if your pegs are short, kind of like how this one is, on this loom, you may want to do this 1 peg at a time. So you're going to go ahead and continue this for 10 rows. And then after you completed the 10 rows of the tight stitch, your product should be looking like this. This is the top of the bag, and these are the stitches we've done so far. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to do like a half stitch. What this means is you're going to wrap the pegs so there's 4 loops on there, and then you're going to take the bottom 2 over the top 2. So instead of doing the normal either tight stitch or a chunky stitch, you're going to wrap all the pegs so they have 4 on there. And again, you can work this each peg at a time as you do it, but it's going to be the half stitch where we take the bottom 2 over the top 2. Remembering, trying to keep your yarn a little loose so that it's easy to wrap and it'll be easy to take the stitches over. Once you get back to the beginning, as you can see, we're going to end up having our 4 loops on there once we wrap it around this time. And again, it might be easy to work 1 peg at a time as well. And what you're going to do is you're going to take these bottom 2 stitches that we already had left over from the other stitch and bring them over the top. And move on to the next peg. Pushing these down to help you out, and again there should be 3 loops on there. And we're just going to simply take the bottom 2 loops, these 2, over those top 2 loops. You can work 1 or 2 pegs at a time. It's just that if you end up wrapping it all, it's because these pegs are kind of short, like I mentioned before. So sometimes I like working my stitches just 1 peg at a time. So again, make sure you get the bottom 2 only and knit them over. And this is the half stitch. If I can find my yarn here. So go ahead and do this for 20 rows. Once you get that many rows done of the half stitch, we're going to go ahead, because there's still 2 loops left on all of these, and we're getting ready to bind off this bag. It's going to be a cute little bag for like a child. And again, this is a great pattern that you can modify to a bigger loom as well and make it longer if you want it as well. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do 1 quick row of E-wrap knit, and this time when we E-wrap knit, we're actually going to take the bottom 2 loops over the top 1. So you're going to make sure you grab both those loops and go up and over. This is going to help us when we go to bind off. So go around and do that. Make sure you wrap it and then take the bottom 2 loops off so you're only left with 1 loop. Now once you do that and you only have 1 loop left on each one, we're going to bind off this bag. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to get these end loops from this side and this side, and I'm just going to move those loops onto these pegs right here. So lift it up, and very carefully move it over here. Go ahead and knit it over. Now move on to the other side. Grab this loop, lift it up, and move it over. And then knit it over. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take the loops from this side to this side to this side, and we'll have our working tail that we'll use still. So do not cut this working string right now. We'll be using that at the very end. So go ahead and grab your loop from one side and bring it over to the other side. Again, you don't have to knit it over right now. Grab the next loop and bring it over to the corresponding one. If it's a little tight, it's just because of the way it was wrapped. So that's why it's important to watch how much tension you have. Now you don't have to knit them over right now, but if you had wanted to, as you're doing it so you don't lose them, I'm actually going to go ahead and just knit them over, just to make sure that they don't fall. So I'm going to keep doing that until I get to the end, and then we'll come back for the final step. All the loops are now on one side of my loom, and they're all been knitted over. Now we have to remove this completely from the project. So you still have your working yarn attached. Remember, you do not cut a tail. Turn it so it's facing you, whichever way you tend to crochet. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do like a crochet bind off, where we're going to lift these loops up and we're going to bind them off, and we're going to use this to help us get us loops in between. So when we do this, we're going to take a loop off of the peg, put it on our crochet hook. We're going to grab our working yarn. We're going to wrap and do one chain in between. Now do 2 chains in between. Grab your second loop, put it on your crochet hook, take the front over the back to help bind that off, do your 2 chains, go to your next loop, so you have both on there, Take the back over the front. Do your 2 chains. Now go ahead and continue this until you get to the end. We're on our last stitch to take off. I've already done my last 2 chains here, so I'm just going to grab the last one, put it on, front over the back, or back over the front, sorry. It looks like there we go. Okay, and now it's off the loom. We're going to cut, our tail just a little bit. We're going to give about 3 or 4 inches. I always like to have a little extra just in case you need it later on. Go ahead and pull your bag through, and with that tail that you have left over, we're going to go ahead and pull it all the way through. And I'm going to go ahead and give it one more knot. As you can see, you can give it a little stretch. Let's zoom out a little bit. And that creates our binding on the end. For the final touch on this bag, we actually have to make a handle. And as you can tell by the picture of this before, I decided I was going a different route with what I was going to use as a handle. I have some fabric here, just a skinny strip, and this was already pre-cut. I did not cut this even. This was on a roll that was like this that my cousin had given me. I think they use it for quilting, so this was already something that was cut up. And what we're going to do is we're going to weave it in where we did the figure 8 stitch. So if you hold your part like this, and we know this is our start, we're just going to, that's why we did the figure 8 stitch, so we could weave it in and out all the way around the bag. Going back and forth. We're threading it through. So keep doing that till you get back to your starting point. As you can see, it's all weaved in back and forth through the whole project until we got back to this one corner where they both are. And what we're going to do is we're going to line up the 2 strips, that however much you have left. And again, you can make the handle as long as you want. I want to line them up for a minute. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tie a cute little bow at the very end. So we want the bow to be what's going to keep it from coming apart. So at the very end, the last couple inches that you have, go ahead, tie them together. Go ahead and tie them together, trying to keep them as even as you can. Now I'm not a fancy bow or tie, but I'm going to make a knot. And I'm just going to make a cute little bow. And that's how we're going to tie it off. And I mean, obviously, if you're cuter at making bows, you can go ahead and do more strings so you have more bow left. But there's our little tie off. With the bag, you may have to do a double knot. And then what happens with the bag is when you can pull it, and it closes it off like a gather bind off. If you don't want it to do that, just go ahead and stretch it back out. And then grab 2 sides. When you look at the middle, grab 2 middles. If you don't want to do it the other way. And pull them up. And your handle could be right in the middle as well. We're just going to pull it through those 2. And then we have our little handle here as well. And it helps bind this, gather this part off when you do it that way. So this would be your handle, as you can see in the picture before. And then when you want to get into the bag, all you simply have to do is stretch it back out, put your stuff in, find your 2 parts of the handle, and just give it a little pull. So I hope you like this bag, and again, there'll be a better picture of it at the than you see the picture at the beginning. It's a cute little size for like a child or whatever, and it's easy to modify onto a bigger loom so you can have a bigger bag. Have a great day, everyone.